There's a level of execution that makes people afraid of you. And today, you'll discover exactly how to reach it. Have you ever seen that person who just does things? No hesitation, no bargaining, no pathetic internal negotiation about whether now is the right time. While you're still lying in bed making deals with yourself, they've already finished. While you're drowning in the wreckage of another broken promise, they're building empires with their bare hands. And you know what you tell yourself about them? They're just wired differently. They don't have my responsibilities. They were born with something I don't have. Stop lying to yourself. They're not special. You're just weak. And the worst part, you know it. You've always known it. Every night you fall asleep, swearing tomorrow will be different. Every morning you wake up and betray yourself before your feet even touch the floor. You've become so skilled at self-deception that the lies don't even register anymore. They're just the background noise of your mediocre life. There's an ancient strategic concept from Japan that separates the hunters from the hunted. Samurai used it to defeat enemies before the first sword was drawn. Go masters used it to control games lasting hundreds of moves. And the people who understand it look at procrastinators the way lions look at wounded gazelles. They call it Sente, the art of moving first, the discipline of acting while your enemy is still deciding whether to act. Once you internalize this system, procrastination won't be something you manage or struggle with. It will become structurally impossible because you cannot delay what has already happened. You cannot hesitate when hesitation has been surgically removed from your operating system. But there's a price. This technique demands a sacrifice, not your time, not your comfort, something far more precious. The weak, excuse-making, self-pitying version of yourself that you've been protecting your entire life. That person needs to die, and most people love their weakness too much to kill it. Before I show you exactly how this system works, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell me in the comments, what have you been postponing like a coward? Be specific, be honest. The lies you whisper to yourself at night are the chains that keep you crawling when you should be running. Now, back to the video. Marcus Chin was 34 years old when he discovered he had wasted his entire life. It happened at his college reunion. 10 years since graduation. 10 years since he walked across that stage, diploma in hand, voted most likely to succeed by his classmates. 10 years of potential. 10 years of I'll start tomorrow, 10 years of absolutely nothing. He almost didn't go. His wife Rachel had to convince him. It'll be fun, she said. You'll see old friends. What she didn't say, but they both knew. Maybe it would shake him out of whatever had been slowly killing him for the past decade. Marcus arrived at the hotel ballroom with a practiced smile and a mental script of vague accomplishments. Yeah, things are good. Working in marketing. You know how it is. The kind of answers designed to sound acceptable while revealing nothing. The first hour was bearable. Handshakes, small talk, the same questions on repeat. Then he saw Derek Mullins walk through the door. Derek Mullins. The name alone triggered a cascade of memories. In college, Derek was a joke. The guy who couldn't pass intro to statistics. The guy who wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. The guy who spent more time playing video games than attending class. Professors pitied him. Girls ignored him. When people talked about guys who would amount to nothing, Derek's name always came up first. Marcus remembered helping Derek with homework assignments out of pure charity. Remembered thinking, at least I'll never end up like him. Remembered the quiet superiority he felt every time Derek failed another exam. Now Derek walked into the reunion in a tailored suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. Behind him, 2 people who were clearly assistants. The room shifted. Whispers spread like fire. Did you hear? Derek started a tech company, sold it for 8 figures. He's launching another one, got featured in Forbes last month. I heard he turned down a job offer from Google to run his own fund. Marcus stood frozen, drink sweating in his hand, watching Derek get surrounded by the same people who used to laugh at him behind his back. Now they were laughing at his jokes. Now they were asking for his business card. Now they were treating him like someone who mattered. An old classmate named Brian appeared at Marcus's elbow. Brian had never been particularly tactful. Wild, right? Brian said, nodding toward Derek. Remember when we used to help that guy with his homework? Now he could probably buy this whole hotel. Brian laughed, Meanwhile, what are you up to these days? Marcus opened his mouth. Nothing came out. What could he say? That he was still in the same mid-level marketing job he'd had for 6 years? That his biggest accomplishment this decade was a performance review that said, meets expectations? That his wife had stopped asking about his goals because she'd gotten tired of hearing the same empty promises? Marketing. Marcus finally managed. Still in marketing. Oh, Brian's face flickered with something. Disappointment? Pity? That's cool, man. Cool. Brian moved on. Of course he did. Why would anyone linger around mediocrity when success was holding court across the room? Marcus found himself walking toward Derek. He didn't know why. Maybe he needed to see it up close. Maybe he needed proof that the universe had actually inverted itself so completely. Derek recognized him immediately. Marcus. Holy shit, man. The hug was genuine. That was the worst part. Derek wasn't gloating. He was actually happy to see the guy who used to pity him. I heard you're doing well, Marcus said, the understatement of the century. Yeah, things worked out. Derek smiled, not smug, just content. The smile of someone who had built something real. Remember that stupid app idea I kept talking about senior year? The one everyone said was a waste of time? Marcus remembered. He'd told Derek exactly that. A social platform for local businesses? Who's going to use that? Those had been his exact words. I built it, Derek said. Took me 3 years of working nights and weekends, failed twice, almost went bankrupt, but I built it. Marcus felt something cold spreading through his chest. You were the smart one, Marcus, Derek continued. I always thought you'd be running some Fortune 500 by now. What are you working on these days? The question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. What was Marcus working on? What had he built? What had he shipped? What had he finished? Nothing. The answer was nothing. He had ideas. God, he had so many ideas. A folder on his laptop titled Projects contained 47 documents. Business plans never executed, books never written, apps never coded, skills never learned. Every single one started with enthusiasm and abandoned within weeks. Meanwhile, Derek the joke, the failure, the guy who couldn't pass statistics had taken one stupid idea and turned it into an empire. Not because he was smarter, not because he was luckier, but because he had done the one thing Marcus had never been able to do. He had started, and then he had not stopped. Marketing. Marcus heard himself say, still doing marketing stuff. Derek's face did the same flicker Brian's had, that microsecond of recalibration. The realization that the guy who was most likely to succeed had become the guy you felt awkward making small talk with. That's great, man. That's really great. They both knew it wasn't great. They both knew Marcus was lying, and they both knew there was nothing more to say. Marcus left the reunion early, drove home in silence, walked into his dark apartment where Rachel was already asleep, sat on the edge of the bed in his rental suit that suddenly felt cheap. And for the first time in his adult life, he asked himself the question he'd been running from for 10 years. What happened to me? Same education as Derek, same starting point, same opportunities. But Derek had built a company worth millions, and Marcus couldn't even finish a side project, couldn't even keep a promise to himself, couldn't even start a workout routine without quitting in 3 weeks. The only difference between them wasn't talent, wasn't intelligence, wasn't luck. The only difference was that Derek acted, and Marcus waited. Derek moved first. Marcus made plans to move first tomorrow, and tomorrow never came. He sat in the darkness for a long time. Somewhere around 3 a.m., he made a decision. Not the kind of decision he usually made, the hollow promises that evaporated by morning. Something different, something desperate. He was going to find out what was wrong with him, and he was going to fix it or die trying. Because the alternative, another 10 years of watching Derek Mullins's walk past him into the life he was supposed to have, was no longer something he could survive. 3 weeks later, Marcus found himself in a small room above a tea shop in the old part of the city. He'd tried everything else first. Productivity books, online courses, a therapist who charged $200 an hour to ask, and how does that make you feel? Nothing worked. Nothing ever worked. Because every system in the world is useless when you're fundamentally broken. Then a colleague mentioned an old Japanese man who taught something like life strategy through the game of Go. He's weird, the colleague said. Doesn't take many students, but the people who study with him, something changes in them. Marcus didn't believe in weird old men with mystical wisdom, but he'd stopped believing in himself long ago, so he figured he had nothing to lose. The room was sparse. Wooden floor, a single low table, a Go board with black and white stones. No decorations except a single scroll with Japanese characters Marcus couldn't read. The old man was already seated when Marcus entered, perhaps 70. Silver hair pulled back tight, deep lines carved into his face like river valleys. Eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Sit," the man said, not a suggestion. Marcus sat. "I'm Hayashi. I played Go professionally in Japan for 40 years. Now I teach, sometimes. I'm Marcus. I'm not here to learn a board game. I'm here because I know why you're here." Hayashi's voice cut like a blade. "You're here because you're drowning. Because everything you start, you abandon. Because you've watched people with half your talent build lives you can't even imagine. And you finally realize that the common denominator in all your failures is you." Marcus felt his face flush. "How did you?" "Your eyes, your posture, the way you fidget like a man who has never learned to be still." Hayashi began placing stones on the board with mechanical precision. "I've seen 1,000 men like you, all convinced they're special cases, all suffering from the same disease." "What disease?" Hayashi looked up. "You are addicted to potential. You love the feeling of someday, the fantasy of the person you could become, but you hate the actual work of becoming. So you stay forever in the planning phase, where everything is possible and nothing is required." The words hit Marcus like physical blows, because they were true. Every single one. "You're not lazy," Hayashi continued. "Lazy people don't torture themselves. You torture yourself constantly. You're not stupid. Stupid people don't recognize patterns. You've recognized your pattern for years. Your problem is something else entirely." "What?" "You move second, always second. You wait for the right moment. You wait for motivation. You wait for clarity. You wait for permission. And while you're waiting, everyone else is moving. Everyone else is building. Everyone else is living the life you're still planning." Hayashi tapped the Go board. "In this game, there's a concept called Sente. It means initiative. When you have Sente, you move first. Your opponent must respond to you. You control the rhythm of the game, the location of battles, the flow of time itself." He placed a black stone. "This is Sente. I move here. You must respond or suffer." He placed a white stone in response. "This is Gote. I'm reacting. I've lost control. I'm playing your game now, not mine." Marcus stared at the board. "I've been in Gote my entire life." "Yes, every procrastinator is. You wake up reacting to emails, to notifications, to other people's priorities. You spend your whole day responding to emergencies that only exist because you delayed action. You go to sleep exhausted, having accomplished nothing that was truly yours, and you tell yourself tomorrow will be different. It never is. Of course not, because tomorrow you'll wake up in Goat again, reacting again, waiting again. The cycle doesn't break itself. It must be broken." Hayashi swept the stones off the board. "I can teach you to seize Sente, not just in this game, in your life. But I must warn you, this teaching will require you to kill someone." Marcus tensed. "Not literally." A ghost of a smile crossed Hayashi's face. "The person you must kill is the Marcus who loves his excuses, the Marcus who finds comfort in potential, the Marcus who has been protecting his weakness like a mother protects a sick child. That Marcus must die. Can you kill him?" Marcus thought about Derek at the reunion, about the pity in his wife's eyes, about the 47 abandoned projects rotting on his laptop. "Yes. We'll see," Hayashi said. "Come back next week, and don't be late. People who are late have already chosen Gote." The next Saturday, Marcus arrived 20 minutes early. Hayashi was already there, as if he'd never left. "How many decisions do you make between waking up and starting work?" Marcus thought. "I don't know. Dozens? What to wear? What to eat? Which email to read first? Whether to check the news? And by the time you face your most important task, how do you feel?" "Exhausted," like I've already run a marathon. Because you have. Hayashi pulled out a small notebook. Your brain has a limited supply of decision-making fuel. Scientists call it decision fatigue. Every choice you make, no matter how small, drains the tank. By mid-morning, most people are running on fumes, and a brain without fuel does one thing reliably. It avoids anything difficult. He wrote 2 characters in the notebook. Ketsudan. In Japanese, it means decision. But look at the characters. The first means to determine. The second means to cut off. A true decision isn't choosing something. It's cutting off every other possibility, burning your ships, eliminating retreat. I make decisions all the time. No, you make wishes, intentions, hopes. Hayashi's voice sharpened. A real Ketsudan has no escape route. When samurai committed to an attack, they didn't plan what to do if it failed. They cut off failure as a possibility. The only path was forward. He leaned closer. Tonight, before you sleep, you will write down exactly what you will do in the first 30 minutes after waking. Not, work on my project. That's vague. That's weak. That's the language of people who never finish anything. You will write the specific action. Open laptop. Open document X. Write first paragraph. That seems too simple. Simple is not the same as easy. You've spent your whole life making things complicated so you'd have an excuse when you failed. Complex plans give you places to hide. Simple plans leave you naked. And that's exactly what you need. Hayashi continued. When you wake tomorrow, you will not decide anything. The decision has already been made. The ships have been burned. You will simply execute. That night, Marcus wrote on a piece of paper. 6 a.m. open laptop, open Henderson presentation. Write title slide and first 3 bullets. When his alarm rang the next morning, something strange happened. The usual negotiation, the snooze button dance, the mental bargaining didn't occur. There was nothing to negotiate. The decision had been made 12 hours ago by a version of himself with more willpower. All that remained was execution. By 6:30, he'd finished the title slide and 7 bullets, more than he usually accomplished in an entire morning of trying to start. A neuroscientist at Columbia University who has studied decision-making for 17 years explains, when you pre-commit to specific actions, you bypass the prefrontal cortex's deliberation process entirely. The action becomes encoded more like a habit than a choice. This is why implementation intentions specific if-then plans increase goal achievement rates by 200 to 300%. Week 2, Marcus arrived with a confession. Ketsudan worked for 3 days. Then I had a big project, a full strategic proposal, probably 60 pages. I sat down to start and just froze. The technique felt useless because I didn't know where to begin. Hayashi nodded slowly. Ketsudan works when the action is clear, but when the task is enormous, a different enemy appears. The enemy of the mountain. He placed a single stone on the empty board. When beginners look at a Go game, they see the whole board. 361 intersections, infinite possibilities. The complexity paralyzes them. They don't know where to start, so they don't start at all. That's exactly what happened to me. Masters see the same board differently. They don't see 361 points. They see 1 point, the next move, only the next move. The mountain is an illusion. There is only the step in front of you. He wrote, Ippo, 1 step. Your brain has an ancient alarm system called the amygdala. It evolved to detect threats, predators, cliffs, danger. When it perceives a threat, it triggers panic, fight or flight. In the modern world, the amygdala can't tell the difference between a lion and a 60-page report. Both register as overwhelming threats, and when the amygdala activates, your higher brain shuts down. You freeze, you flee, you procrastinate. So my brain thinks my proposal is trying to kill me? Essentially, yes. And you've been trying to fight this response with willpower. That's like trying to stop a freight train with your hands. You need to be smarter. Hayashi leaned forward. The solution is to make the first step so small that the amygdala doesn't notice. Not write the proposal, not write the first section, not even write the first page. Just this. Open the document. Write 1 sentence. 1 sentence. 1 sentence. 2 minutes. Your amygdala cannot perceive 2 minutes as a threat. It's below the radar. And once you start moving, something changes. What? Momentum. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. The hardest part of any task isn't the middle or the end, it's the beginning. The transition from 0 to 1, Ippo, is designed to make that transition so easy that resistance becomes irrelevant. Marcus tried it that week. The 60-page proposal became, write one sentence. He wrote one sentence, then another. Then he looked up and 90 minutes had passed. The proposal was half done. He hadn't powered through resistance. He had walked around it. A behavioral psychologist at Duke University, who has studied habit formation for 14 years, notes, the brain's resistance to task initiation is overwhelmingly front-loaded. Our research shows that once any meaningful engagement with a task has begun, the neurological profile shifts dramatically from avoidance-oriented to completion-oriented. This is why the first 2 minutes are disproportionately valuable. Month 2, Marcus arrived looking worse than before. Something's wrong. I'm starting faster, I'm finishing more, but I feel like I'm dying. I'm exhausted all the time. I can't think clearly. I've filled every minute with productivity and I've never been more miserable. Hayashi poured tea with deliberate slowness. You've discovered the third enemy, the enemy of fullness. He gestured to the go board. What do you see between the stones? Empty space. In the West, you call this nothing, a waste, something to be filled. In Japan, we have a different word. He wrote, ma. It doesn't mean emptiness. It means pregnant space, possibility. The pause between musical notes that transforms noise into music. The white space in a painting that allows the eye to rest. The silence between words that gives speech its power. I don't understand what this has to do with my exhaustion. You've been treating your life like a schedule to be optimized, every minute filled, every gap eliminated, but you are not a machine, you are a human being. And human beings require ma to function. Hayashi explained that the brain has 2 operating modes. Focus mode, used for direct problem solving, consumes enormous energy. But there's another network called the default mode network, which activates only during rest. This network consolidates memories, generates creative insights, and processes emotional experiences. When you eliminate all empty space, you starve this network. Your brain never gets a chance to integrate what you've learned. You become a consumer of tasks without digesting any of them. You work more and accomplish less because your mind is cluttered with unprocessed debris. So I need to schedule breaks? You need to schedule nothing. True ma is not productive rest. It's not catching up on podcasts or checking social media. It's genuine emptiness, walking without destination, sitting without purpose, staring at a wall and letting your mind wander wherever it wants to go. Marcus resisted this idea violently. Doing nothing felt irresponsible, wasteful, weak, but he was desperate enough to try. That week, he inserted 15 minutes of ma between every 90-minute work session. No phone, no input, just existence. The first few days were agonizing. His mind screamed for stimulation, but by the second week, something shifted. Ideas began appearing unbidden. Solutions emerged while he was making coffee. His afternoon exhaustion disappeared. He wasn't working more hours. He was working actual hours, instead of the fragmented, attention-shattered mess that had passed for work before. A cognitive neuroscientist at Cambridge who has studied the default mode network for 16 years observes, paradoxically, scheduled periods of unfocused rest dramatically improve subsequent cognitive performance. The brain uses these intervals for memory consolidation and novel pattern recognition. Professionals who deliberately incorporate unstructured intervals report 40% higher creative output and significantly reduced rates of burnout. Month 3. A different kind of confession. I looked at my computer the other day. 43 browser tabs open. 27 unread emails I've been meaning to deal with. 8 half-finished projects from the last 2 years. I start things now, but I still don't finish them. My life is a graveyard of almost complete tasks. Hayashi set down his teacup with a sharp click. The fourth enemy, the enemy of open loops. He wrote, Shimatsu. It means beginning and end. But in traditional Japanese craftsmanship, it specifically means to properly complete something, including the cleanup afterward, to to close the circle, to leave nothing hanging. He explained the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological phenomenon where incomplete tasks occupy active memory, creating persistent mental load. Every unfinished task is a small parasite feeding on your cognitive resources. You think you've moved on, but your brain hasn't. It's still holding that task in active memory, waiting for resolution. By the time you have 50 open loops, your mental computer is so burdened it can barely function. This is why you feel scattered, why you can't focus, why you're exhausted even when you haven't done anything. You're running 50 background programs at all times. So I need to finish everything I start? That's impossible. But you need to close the loop one way or another. Complete it, delete it permanently, or capture it in a trusted external system with a specific date for return. The key is nothing stays floating in your head. Every open loop must be either resolved or externalized. He then described the Japanese 5S system: sort, set in order, shine, standardize, sustain. Your physical environment mirrors your mental state. A cluttered desk produces cluttered thinking. Every night before sleep, you must perform Shimatsu on your workspace. Clear the surfaces, close the tabs, process the inbox. Write tomorrow's Ketsudan. This reset to zero ritual signals to your brain that the day is complete, that you've earned rest, that you can release. Marcus spent the next weekend in brutal Shimatsu. He closed 200 browser tabs, most of which he couldn't even remember opening. He processed 73 emails, deleting most, responding to some, scheduling others. He made decisions about 23 half-finished projects, completing 2, deleting 15, and scheduling specific restart dates for 6. Monday morning, he sat down at his clean desk and felt something foreign. Stillness. The mental noise had quieted. The parasites had been evicted. For the first time in years, he could actually think. The final lesson. 4 months since the reunion. A different Marcus sat across from Hayashi. There's one more enemy, Hayashi said, and in some ways, it's the most dangerous, because it attacks at the moment you think you've won. He picked up a bamboo practice sword that had been leaning against the wall. Do you know why samurai in films always hold their position after striking down an opponent? I assumed it was dramatic effect. It's Zanshin. He wrote the final characters. Remaining mind. In Kendo, if you strike your opponent perfectly, but then immediately relax, the point doesn't count, because a real fight isn't over when the enemy falls. It's over when you're safe. An opponent who appears defeated may still attack. A moment of premature celebration could be the moment of your death. He lowered the sword. Most people don't fail because they can't start. They fail because they can't finish properly. They complete 95% of a task and then rush the final 5%. They send the email without checking for errors. They submit the report without reviewing the numbers. They cross the finish line and immediately collapse. I do that all the time. The moment I see the end, I sprint toward it and stop caring about quality. Because your ego wants the relief of completion more than the reality of excellence. Zanshin is the discipline of maintaining full presence until the task is truly complete. Not almost complete, truly complete. He told a story from samurai history, the legendary duel between Miyamoto Musashi and Sasaki Kojiro. Before the fight began, Kojiro drew his sword and threw away the scabbard. Musashi, seeing this, said, "You've already lost. If you expected to survive, why would you discard the sheath?" Kojiro's mind was only on attack, only on winning. He had no Zanshin, no awareness of what comes after. His consciousness ended at the moment of the strike, and so did his life. The lesson was clear. Every task has an after. Every project has consequences that ripple forward. Rushing the ending creates problems that haunt the future. After completing any task, Hayashi said, "You will hold for 5 seconds. Breathe. Scan your work. Ask yourself, is this truly complete? Is there anything I'm rushing because I want to be done?" Only when you can say yes with full honesty do you move forward. 12 months after that first meeting with Hayashi, 52 weeks of training, 365 days of practice, Marcus sat at the same hotel ballroom where everything had fallen apart. Another reunion, different circumstances. In the past year, he had received 2 promotions. He had launched a side business that was generating more than his old salary. He had lost 30 pounds, not through heroic effort, but through the simple discipline of starting workouts before his brain could object. His relationship with Rachel had transformed not because of grand gestures, but because of kept promises, accumulating daily like compound interest. Derek was there again. Of course he was. Still successful. Still surrounded by admirers. But this time, Marcus didn't avoid him. He walked straight over. "Marcus." Derek's face lit up with genuine warmth. "Man, I heard about your new venture. Congratulations. That's incredible growth for a first year." "Thanks. Learned some things about actually finishing what I start." They talked for 20 minutes, as equals. Two men who had taken different paths but arrived at similar destinations. Derek through natural action, Marcus through learned discipline. As Marcus was leaving, Derek said something that stopped him cold. "You know what I remember most about college? I used to watch you in class. You were so smart, always had the best ideas. And I used to think if I had half his brains, I'd conquer the world. I was honestly terrified you'd beat me to everything." Marcus didn't know what to say. "What changed?" Derek asked. "What happened between then and now?" Marcus thought about it, about Hayashi, about Sente and Ketsudan and Ippo, about Ma and Shimatsu in Zanshin, about the person he'd killed so that a better person could live. "I stopped waiting," Marcus said finally. "That's all. I stopped waiting for the right moment and started moving." Derek nodded slowly. "That's it, isn't it? That's the whole secret." "That's the whole secret. Let me give you what Hayashi gave Marcus. The full Sente system for destroying procrastination at its root. Sente strategic initiative. You are either controlling your life or being controlled by it. There is no middle ground. Every morning you wake up in one of two states, hunter or hunted, predator or prey. The person who moves first, or the person who responds to everyone else's moves. Choose before your feet hit the floor. Ketsudan, the night before decision. Before you sleep, write the exact action you will take in the first hour of tomorrow. Not vague, not flexible, specific and non-negotiable. When you wake, there is nothing to decide. The decision has already been made. The ships have already been burned. Ippo, the 2-minute step. When facing any task large enough to trigger resistance, do not look at the mountain. Look at your feet. Define the smallest possible action that creates forward movement. 2 minutes, 1 sentence, 1 rep. Make it so small that your fear cannot find it. Then begin. Maw the sacred empty space. Between every focused work session, schedule nothingness. Not rest, not recovery content, actual emptiness. Let your default mode network process what you've consumed. Let your mind breathe. A bow that stays drawn will eventually snap. Shimatsu, the nightly closure. Every evening, close every loop you've opened. Complete it, delete it, or externalize it to a trusted system. Clear your workspace to 0. Process your inputs to 0. Signal to your brain that the day is finished, that you've earned rest, that tomorrow will start clean. Zanshin, the final 5 seconds. When you complete any task, do not immediately rush to the next thing. Hold position. Breathe. Verify true completion. Ask yourself, is this done or am I just desperate for it to be done? Only move when the answer is honest. I want to leave you with the same question Hayashi asked Marcus in their final session. How many more years will you donate to potential? How many more nights will you go to sleep swearing tomorrow will be different? How many more reunions will you attend? Watching the people who should have been behind you build lives you can barely imagine. How many more times will you look at your goals written years ago, touch never, and feel that familiar mixture of shame and self-pity that has become your constant companion? Derek Mullins wasn't smarter than you. He wasn't born with more discipline. He wasn't blessed with circumstances you didn't have. He just moved first. While you were planning, he was doing. While you were waiting for clarity, he was learning through action. While you were protecting your precious potential, he was converting his into reality. The Sente system isn't complicated. It doesn't require special talent or expensive tools or perfect circumstances. It requires one thing, the decision to stop waiting. Tonight, try this. Before you sleep, write 1 sentence. Tomorrow at specific time, I will specific action. That's your Ketsudan, your first real decision. Your ship's burned. Tomorrow, when that moment arrives, Take the Ippo, the single small step. Don't think about the mountain, just move your foot. Do this for 7 days, then 30. Then let it become who you are. The person you were, the waiter, the planner, the professional procrastinator, that person can die tonight. No funeral required, no mourning period, just a quiet execution and a fresh start. Or you can do what you've always done. Watch this video, feel inspired, make promises, and break them by Wednesday. The choice is yours. It always has been. But now you know the truth. There is no right moment. There is no tomorrow. There is only now, and now is bleeding away while you decide whether to act. Sente, the first move, the only move that matters. Make it now. Or make excuses forever. If this video cracks something open in you, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And tell me in the comments, what is your Ketsudan for tomorrow morning? What specific action will you take before your excuses wake up? Write it publicly. Burn your ships in front of witnesses. If you've watched this far, you're different from the people who clicked away. Now prove it to yourself. See you in the next video.